Hello. Okay, it looks like I am audible this time. I apologize for anyone who tried to join this and watch the live stream earlier today. Unless you are a fluent lip reader, that wouldn't have done much for you. But I think we fixed our audio issues. It looks like my microphone is working. So, without further ado, this week is Parshat Lekha, and in this week's Parsha, we read about Avraham and Sarah's journey to the Promised Land, and we read that when they left, we read Avram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his property and the souls they had made in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. What's this phrase, the souls they had made, referring to? On the surface, we might think it means slaves they'd acquired. Slavery was commonplace in the ancient world, and perhaps they acquired slaves in Haran before they went to the land of Canaan. However, Rashi quotes the Midrashic explanation that the souls referred to in this verse, which Avraham and Sarai had made, are the men and the women that they had brought under the wings of the Shekhinah, of God's presence. In other words, before embarking on their own journey to the Promised Land, Avraham and Sarah were already busy converting people to the worship of the Holy One, blessed be He, the Creator of heaven and earth. What's perhaps more surprising than this description of Avraham and Sarah proselytizing is that we hear of no such efforts on the part of the other patriarchs and matriarchs. We don't hear about Yitzchak and Rivka, or Yaakov and Leah and Rachel bringing people under the wings of the Shekhinah. Why is it only Avraham and Sarah? I think that there's something essential about Avraham and Sarah's role in the world that made them uniquely suited to this task of connecting people with God's presence. Each of the three Avot, the three patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, is associated with a different divine attribute. Avraham is associated with the divine attribute of Chesed, often translated loving kindness. Yitzchak is the embodiment of Gevura, strength, discipline, restraint. And Yaakov is Tiferet, harmony, beauty, truth, which results from the synthesis of Avraham's Chesed and Yitzchak's Gevura, the synthesis of loving kindness with discipline. But it was not Yitzchak's discipline or even Yaakov's beauty and harmony that attracted people to the worship of the one true God. It was Abraham's chesed, his loving kindness. While each of these virtues associated with the three avot is intrinsically positive and essential to living a healthy, balanced life, the only attribute which is successful at connecting people to God, to Torah, to the Jewish people, is the attribute of chesed, of loving kindness. Here at Beis Abe, we have long been a community where people who might feel distant from Torah or from God or from the organized Jewish community can be inspired and connected to commit to their Judaism more deeply. And this is the case because this is a community that, like our forefather, Avraham Avinu, and like his namesake, the longtime rabbi of this community, Rabbi Avraham Magensi Zatzal, we are a community that embodies this attribute of chesed, of loving kindness. Chesed is often translated as loving kindness, as I've said, but it's much more than that. Chesed is a love which overflows all boundaries, which respects no limits. Chesed, like water, will flow wherever gravity takes it. And at Beis Abe, that chesed has taken the form of not only loving and accepting every Jew for who they are, regardless of how religious or pious they appear, but it's taken the form also of deliberate outreach to communities that have often not been well served by synagogues or the organized Jewish community. Be that new immigrants from Russia in the 90s, college students, secular Israelis, the LGBT community, converts, Balei Tshuva. I dare say most of the people who are members of Beis Abe today, and I include myself in this group, are here because we were drawn by that spirit of chesed, that spirit of overflowing love. Now, overflowing love can be dangerous. A love which respects no boundaries can hurt people. And in order to protect ourselves and the people we come into contact with, we need the spirit of gvura, of discipline, embodied by Yitzhak Avinu. And there's no more clear illustration of the necessity of discipline, of gevura, to temper chesed than the ways that social distancing guidelines protect us and others from the COVID-19 pandemic. Chesed tells us that when we see our friends, our families, our loved ones, we want to give them a hug, we want to kiss them, we want to whisper in their ear and come close as possible. But during a pandemic, or even in a normal year during flu season, we need to restrain that impulse to come close, that impulse to show overflowing love, and not give that hug, not shake that hand, not pull that mask down so we can whisper intimately in someone's ear. We need to stand back and show that restraint, exercise that gvura. And here at Beis Abe, we have done a pretty good job of exercising that gvura in the face of COVID-19. We've implemented rigorous social distancing guidelines, and we've done things that we've never done before in living memory, putting limits on the number of people who could come to high holiday services, requiring people to pre-register for services. It's not a very chesedic thing to do, but it's necessary to protect the health of our community. However, gevura doesn't bring new people in. Yitzchak didn't convert people. Only chesed, in the spirit of Avraham, in the classic spirit of Beis Abe, can do that. As the pandemic continues and it becomes clear that things may never be the same again. And that some form of social distancing may be with us for a long time to come, months, perhaps years. We can no longer afford to put all our focus on Gevura alone. We need social distancing restrictions to keep us safe. And as long as we thought this pandemic was a matter of a few weeks or a few months, we could put all our energy into that and say, we'll go back to Chesed when things go back to normal. But it's becoming increasingly clear that normal, as we have meant it in the past, may never be coming back. And in the meantime, the Gevura that keeps us safe makes it harder to connect with new people. The ways that we've shortened our services by omitting the sermon or omitting Misheberach's prayers for the people who are called up to the Torah, prayers for people in need of healing, or omitting beloved songs led by children like Adon Olam or Anim Zmirot. They make attendance at services less accessible and less appealing to people who aren't already familiar and comfortable with the traditional davening. Those very things that we've cut were often for many people the hook, the one thing that they could connect to in the service. Not hosting guests makes it harder for newcomers to our neighborhood to connect with the community. It makes it harder for converts and Balei Tshuva, people exploring Judaism for the first time, to learn the ropes of Jewish observance and learn the norms of the Orthodox community. In order to make sure that our community is still open to newcomers and outsiders, we have to find a way to bring Chesed into Gevura, to bring some of that boundless loving kindness, which I know as a community we know how to do so well, into our restraint. We need to bring playfulness into our discipline and a little chaos even into our order. If we don't find a way to do this, it would be a tragedy, not only for our shul, which will suffer from the inability to attract new members, but it would be a tragedy for all the people out there who are looking for a way to connect with God, with Torah, with the Jewish community, and who might find that connection here at Beis Abe if we can make the opening for them. Our task as a community during this pandemic is to find ways to continue reaching out and connecting with people without creating conditions that increase the likelihood of spreading COVID-19. This is the task which is essential for our community. And I believe just as it's essential for the health of the Beis Abe community, it's essential for our health as individuals that we find a way during this pandemic to connect with people in spite of the very necessary restrictions on social interchange. It's in our nature as human beings to connect with people. And so we need to find ways to continue reaching out through phone calls, written correspondence. Maybe 2021 is going to be the year the letter makes a comeback. Video chats, maybe even socially distant in-person gatherings. Just as we at Beis Abe have been working hard and trying to get creative to find ways to connect with people within the bounds, within the Gevura of social distancing, we as individuals have to figure out how to do the same thing. There's a temptation to retreat into the cocoon of our homes and our comforts and our habits. But I want to challenge us all to find new ways to keep reaching out and connecting with people, with our community, with causes that are important to us and to the world. Because it's in the connections between us and others, not only that we find that little hit of dopamine that we might need to get through the day, but those connections between people are actually a way of bringing more godliness and more soulfulness into the world. Remember, it didn't say the people that Abraham and Sarah had converted to the worship of God. It said the souls which Abraham and Sarah had made. Because when we connect with another person, we are actually bringing more soulfulness into this world. The Shekhinah, God's presence, dwells in the space between two people who love each other. And so when we build loving connections with others, whether that's in a romantic relationship with our spouse, or just in the love between two friends, two chavrutas, two study partners, we are bringing more of God's presence, as it were, into our world. We're bringing more soulfulness into this world because God's presence is the soul of this world. And so we're, as it were, making new soul. And if we can do that, if we can continue connecting with people and making more soul in this world, in that merit, please God, may we emerge from this pandemic soon and speedily, not only physically intact, but also spiritually and socially connected as well. Shabbat Shalom.